think yourself slim? Well, actually, there's a lot of scientific evidence that now shows that there's absolutely no doubt that the mind affects the body. I mean, think about it. You think of something that scares you, and you send a signal to the amygdala, which is a part of the brain that governs fear and anxiety. That sends another signal to the hypothalamus of the brain that begins a process of manufacturing stress hormones in the body, some which target your adrenal glands, flooding the body with adrenaline, and that leads to increased blood volume going to certain muscles. Now, all of that happened because you had a thought. Now, think about it another way, similar way actually. You think of something that embarrasses you, something that you're nervous about people knowing, and your face goes red. Again, just from a thought, you're causing this chemical change in the body. So there's no doubt really from a number of research articles that the mind has an impact in the body. But what about using our mind for health-giving behaviours? A fascinating piece of scientific research does actually suggest that using our mind we can actually have health-giving benefits, especially in the realms of weight loss. Now, in this study led by researchers at Carnegie Mellon University, December 2010, volunteers were asked to either imagine eating 3 or 30 units of a particular food. So in one of their experiments, they used M&Ms, you know, those small candy coloured sweets. And so one group were to imagine eating 3 M&Ms, right, the whole chewing, swallowing process. As well as that, they were to imagine 30 repetitive actions of imagining putting a coin into a laundry machine. Now, the reason for that is lifting the coin up, putting it into the machine uses similar muscles to lifting something up and putting it in your mouth. So another group of volunteers, part of the same study, did it slightly the other way around. So instead of imagining eating 3 M&Ms, they had to imagine eating 30 M&Ms, and this time only 3 times putting a coin into the laundry machine. A third group of volunteers in what you would call a control group were just to imagine placing 30 coins into the laundry machine. But then the volunteers were told that they were given a bowl of M&Ms and told to take as many as they liked as part of a taste test that they would soon participate in. But it wasn't really a taste test. The experimenters were actually secretly filming them to find out how many M&Ms they ate. And you know what? Incredibly, those who had imagined eating the most M&Ms, in other words, the group who imagined eating 30 M&Ms, ate much less than the groups who ate only 3 who imagined only eating 3 M&Ms, or who imagined eating none at all. What had actually happened, and this is what the experimenters were very clear on, what actually happened is that imagining eating repetitively the M&Ms reduced the person's appetite to eat even more. So what does that actually mean then for people dieting? Well, you know, so many people when they try to diet, they try to block out of their mind thoughts of a certain food, right? So a person who loves eating barbecued beef burgers might try to stop thinking of barbecued beef burgers. But actually, as counterintuitive as it might sound, what this study actually implies is the best strategy might actually be to imagine eating the beef burgers. Because there is a difference a big difference actually, between imagining eating something and just thinking about the food. I mean, when we just think of the beef burgers, it increases your appetite for it, and especially if you imagine smelling the smell of the barbecuing process taking place, the cooking of the food. Many people would actually salivate. But there's a big difference between thinking about it in that way and actually imagining eating it, taking a bite, repetitively chewing it and imagining swallowing it, taking another bite in your mind, in your imagination, imagining chewing it and tasting it and imagining swallowing it. The repetition of that seems to actually reduce the person's appetite. It's called habituation. You could think of it in terms of chocolate. You know, when you go to eat your 11th square of chocolate, if you're a big chocoholic, you go to eat your 11th square of chocolate, your appetite to eat your 11th is actually slightly less than your appetite to eat your first slice of chocolate. In other words, you get used to eating, you habituate to it, the brain just gets used to the whole chocolate eating thing. But similarly, the brain doesn't seem to distinguish between whether you're really eating the chocolate or whether you're just imagining eating the chocolate. So in other words, imagining eating the chocolate or the beef burgers in the example that I've already used seems to have the same effect in the brain by suppressing the appetite. So that might be an amazing new tool for dieters, not imagining blocking out a particular food, but instead imagining eating the food, imagining gorging yourself. And it's a repetition of doing that, repetitively chewing it and repetitively swallowing it in your imagination. You know, the researchers didn't go as far as to actually test this on real situations where a person finds themselves eating too much of a certain unhealthy food too much of the time. But it's certainly something that I would imagine will be researched in the next few years, and certainly something to think about, or certainly something to imagine.